Well, the market's taking this London terror attack this morning and the North Korean missile launch over Japan last night in stride. Dow futures, believe it or not, they are actually higher right now, and we could see the fourth straight record close for the blue chip average. David Nelson, chief strategist at Belpointe, joins us now to try to sift through all of this. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
You know, what message are investors getting from all of this?
I think investors have learned to take these things in stride, just as you said. It hasn't paid to sell the news, and it's been very profitable to buy the news. And I think they understand that very often these geopolitical events don't translate it necessarily and hit the economy. However, the issue with North Korea is a little more serious because now we're talking about trade sanctions. That could actually spill over to earnings, but right now, investors, like you said, they're taking it in stride. They're pretty calm.
I would make the argument that the one thing that has recently truly affected the markets to the downside would be a missile launch from North Korea, yet that's not the situation today. I take you to Asia. Japan, up 102 points. South Korea, higher. European stocks not completely selling off outside of London, and gold prices aren't moving that much today. So it is this very muted response. Does that say to you that investors are confident or encouraged by what they're seeing with bipartisanship in Washington, D.C.?
I think that that's certainly part of it. Certainly, if you go back to the beginning of the week, I think a big part of the rally was the president's efforts to reach across the aisle and actually get something done. And he did get something done. He got the debt ceiling raised. He tied it to Hurricane Harvey aid. And they're very encouraged that he's actually reached across the aisle to talk to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer regarding, important issues like tax reform, but also DACA and border security. As far as North Korea and this missile launch goes, I think it was less about Japan. It was really a message to the United States that they could hit Guam. This missile went pretty far, probably the longest yet.
Yeah, except investors in the United States not getting that message, or maybe just not believing it. It seems to me that Washington, D.C. is leading Wall Street at this point. Do you think, and it's been promised by the administration, that we do get tax reform by the end of the year? What do you think happens to your 401k at that point?
Look, if we actually get comprehensive tax reform, you're going to see this market rocket higher. I think the window's pretty tight between now and the end of the year. January is the unofficial start of the 2018 election cycle. So if we can incrementally get there, that's great news. But I think investors need to focus on tax reform is not just about tax cuts. We have a very complex code, 77,000 pages long, and it actually encourages corporations to offshore things like their manufacturing, their cash flow. So anything to simplify the code would be good news for investors. And
in the backdrop of all of this, also supporting the markets is the fact that interest rates are so low, and the chance of the Fed hiking by the end of the year in December is 53%. That has gone up. What do you think the Fed does at the end of the year?
Maybe there's one more hike at this point. They're looking at inflation, and it just isn't there. And I think that's a big part of that is the fact that oil prices, which touch everything, have remained low. So maybe one hike this year, but I'm not a bond investor. We're record lows in interest rates. It doesn't seem like a good trade to me.
All right. David Nelson, thank you for coming on this Friday morning. Have a good weekend.
You too.